Hello, Mina. How you doing? So typically, when I get an assignment, a project, as a professional graphic designer, when I get a project, the first thing I do is I sit down, I pour myself a cup of coffee, and I read through the spec sheet. When I'm done reading it, guess what? I read it again. And when I'm done reading it the second time and the third time, guess what? I read it again. By the time I start designing, and this is part of my methodology, part of my workflow. By the time I hit the computer, I know exactly what the requirements of the assignment are. Do you see what I'm saying? And this is important. This is important because when you graduate and you move into a studio setting, it's going to be incumbent upon you, the designer, to be able to ascertain the project specifications to a very, very high degree. And the reason I say that, Mina, is because we're really missing the mark on this. And it's not, I mean, it's good work. I mean, this is set on a curve. It's quite nice. You're kerned quite nicely here. So, I mean, you're paying attention to your typography, but some of the requirements are getting by us here. So, for example, the front of the poster, you know what? Let's do this. Let me take you over there. And let's just take a look. I want to show you exactly where the requirements are. So let's jump over to week 5, where the assignment was submitted. Nobel Prize right here. Okay, so this is the spec sheet. Okay, so as I said, this would be something you would read through several times. So we can see, though, we've got several requirements here. Must be appear on the front. The name must appear on the front, and it's got to be a typographic name. So announce who the person is with some typographic design of their name, and it must appear on the front of the poster. Okay, are these typographic? Is this typographic design? Kind of, because it's on a curve. This isn't typographic design. This is just typeset, right? And I'll talk about more of this in a second, but it must include a biographic information, form of paragraphs, to read the information appear on the back of the poster. Timeline must appear on the back of the poster. You must include a subhead or a tagline that supports the person in some way. That needs to be on the front of the poster. We don't see that here or here. So I guess, also let's go ahead and take a look. This is 11 by 17. Okay, this looks like it's indicative of 11 by 17. I'm not sure. Does that fit out at 17 by 11? I'm not sure. It doesn't quite look like it, but that's not to say it's not. Okay, so again, going through the specs. Photographic imagery may only be used with the Nobel laureate. His or her picture must appear on the back of the poster. Okay, so what do we know? We know the front is typographic only, and the back is the image goes on the back. So this illustration here can't use it because you're creating meaning illustratively and not typographically. This can't use because there's a photograph on the front cover and there's no tagline on either of the examples. Okay, so let me give you my take on the way to proceed from here. First thing you want to do is you want to decide what is your concept. All right, and then you're going to use that concept. So let's say you want your concept to be the test tubes. Okay, the test tubes can depict what her work is without actually showing an image of an illustration of somebody with test tubes. All right, let me show you where I'm going with this. If I jump over to the course announcements, and you definitely want to take a look at this announcement, final project explained with examples deconstructed. So let's take a look at this. Now, I was talking about the concept, right? So let's say you want your concept to be the test tube. Let's say this designer wanted their concept to be this kind of fist that's depicting power, and then this chain, which is depicting suppression, or I'm sorry, oppression. Right? So we know what's going on here before we even turn the poster over. We have a good idea of what's happening. This is an American author that writes reality that for some reason is expressing power, but is being oppressed also. And as it turns out, Toni Morrison is an African-American writer who writes about the trials and tribulations of African-Americans. I mean, that's just a really, really super brief comment that doesn't do Toni Morrison the justice she deserves. But you understand what I'm trying to say, right? Let's take that over here to your work and let's say, how can we do this? Let's say we want our, by the way, this is a gorgeous illustration, really nice job. But how do we depict? So we want to use a test tube. So we want, okay, so what can we do here? We can take Marie Curie, we can maybe take that test tube or somehow turn the eye into a test tube. Okay, and I'm not saying do this, I'm just giving a little bit of an example. So that way you're creating your message typographically. So this example here, this is an illustration. It is an illustration, but it's substituting the O in Tony, so it becomes typographic. So this is now a typographic solution as opposed to an illustrative solution. If we were to take this typeset, just normal O in there, and take this fist and put it right over here, we are no longer creating meaning using typography. We are now creating meaning using illustration, as that becomes the focal point. We don't want to do that. We want the type to be the focal point. You want all of your message making to be delivered through typography. So think about visual substitution and think about some of the concepts and principles we learned during week 5 and week 4 and really start working this out. I've said this to a few other students. I'll say it to you, Mina. Just sit back, pour yourself a big cup of coffee, grab your sketch pad, grab your research, read through it several times, and just start sketching. Start sketching your ideas. Start trying to determine how can I depict my message typographically, right? And you can use illustration as long as it's worked into the type, okay? So that's what we're after, Mina. If you have any questions at all, please let me know. And if you want to run something by me between now and Sunday, that's great too. But that's what we're after. That's really critical for the success of this project. Again, I implore you to go over and take a look at this announcement again. Let's just for giggles and grins. You looked at it once, it looks like. Wait a second. Yeah, you looked at it once. So just go ahead and take a look at this video again. Really study the examples. Take notes. By the time your coffee is done, you'll have some great ideas. And spend some time thinking about the concept. That's the most important thing at this point. Okay, Mina, questions, comments, concerns, clarifications, anything you need, you know I'm just a click away. So let me know if you need anything at all. All right, great. Thank you, Mina.